those our viewers and also those who are going to a journey in which, syempre, ano ba yung nangyayari? Let us talk about the book, My Journey to Survival, From Survival to Revival, also known as Revival 2021. Today, we will learn more about the author's journey, which is co-authored by Paul, about the facts of life, embracing imperfection towards reinvention. So this is how the journey of the Revival book has come up. So let me all welcome our co-author, a consultant and speaker. Let us all welcome and give him a virtual applause, Mr. Paul Lazo. Paul?
Thank you,
Paul, you
Tony,
are
for calling
unmuted.
me a young author. I owe you one for that. Anyway, thank you
Right.
so much. And essentially, what we'll talk about today is how the book happened. But before this all started, a brief background on how Robinson and I met. We actually physically only met once. We met in a virtual event, and he shared his book, and I volunteered to help him put his book together. And admittedly, after I ran to the first draft, I felt like quitting. Okay, because Robin's a very energetic person, and his energy was going all over the place in the book. And I said, "What am I supposed to do with this?" So it was challenging on my end because one is this is really my first book, if you want to call it. I wrote articles, short articles. I have a profile on LinkedIn. You might read a couple of them, but this is literally my first book. And so bringing it together was a challenge in itself. But anyone who's ever written a book, I think you all know it doesn't happen quickly. This book took about maybe a year to put together. We had several, okay, we're going to launch by this date. We're going to launch by December. We're going to launch by end of the year. And it just kept on being pushed down until we finally said, okay, let's do it May 1. And we put this all together. But that's a quick background of the book. But the book itself, as Cha pointed out, there are many analogies to life, if you want to say. The first part of the book talks about Rob in terms of where he came from. Okay, it talks a little bit about his background, his childhood, and of course, when you're born with a cleft palate, it's, admittedly, you can say you look like a monster. Okay, and of course, he also sounds strange. So as a child, he had a very difficult time understanding the world around him. In fact, in the book, he even attempted to commit suicide twice. If you read the quote, it says, I tried to think but couldn't. Now, I'm not saying he wasn't having any thoughts, but maybe he wasn't thinking correctly. I'm sure he had many thoughts running through his head, but the thoughts were not channeled in the right direction. So he was reacting to the world outside him. So he couldn't think, so he just reacted. And his reaction, being a child, you really can't fight back. So what do? Rob chose to attempt to take his life twice. That's the first part of the book. The second part of the book is him moving out. And this is mainly the core of the whole book. It talks about being able to forgive. But more importantly, it talks about being able to forgive yourself. If you notice in the quote, self-hatred is self-imprisonment. Self-forgiveness is self-liberation. The difficulty is if you cannot forgive yourself, you'll wind up in a circle. If you've ever flushed the toilet, you see it going around in circles down the drain of negativity. The negativity just keeps on building and building and building. It just keeps on going down. That's if you can't forgive yourself. But forgiveness in itself is something that I personally think many people confuse with forgetting. My point of view is forgiveness is letting go of a bad feeling, but you must not forget what happened. Otherwise, you haven't learned the lesson. The challenge there is sometimes the memory brings back the bad emotions that were associated with it. So it's also very difficult to separate the two. But more importantly, the other theme that we're talking about here is in the prayer in the morning, in the prayer that started this, the video. You have to forgive me, but I forgot what the video was about. What was the title of the video, chat?
God will
God will
make a
make a way.
way.
He's absolutely right. He will make a way. I'll relate this to a quick story because I'm with the Toastmasters. And one of the questions was, what is the thing that you're most grateful for? When I thought about that, I said, I think the thing I'm most grateful for is that God gave me the power to choose. God makes a way, but we have to choose the path. Sometimes we get lost. We think the other path is better, so you run down there, right? And then you get, oh no, that's the wrong way, you come back. But the whole point there is the biggest power, I think, in all of us is the ability to choose. We have to choose to forgive. We have to choose God's way. We have to choose to be faithful. We have to choose to be strong. And that's all in part two. Rob will talk more about part two. Part three is after you've made this big decision, is actually moving forward. The quote's a very nice quote. Nobody can go back and start a new beginning, but anyone can start today and make a new ending. Especially for an old guy like me. Okay, you might think, oh gosh, what's the saying? You can't teach an old dog new tricks. And this is mainly for people maybe my age. For people my age, the one trick we have to keep on remembering is we have to keep on dreaming. Not reminiscing, dreaming, moving forward, because that is what will slowly keep us alive. If we go back to reminiscing, when your memories exceed your dreams, that's when you start getting old. Part three continues on how to continue with your life, how to make sure you have some financial protection, and we also talk about a couple laws to follow. Okay, that actually we'll talk about a little later, I think. But essentially, the book is about this journey of Rob as he goes through these three phases. And I think many of us, in some way or another, have been through these phases. It can be big or small. Some are short term, some are long term. But all of us have gone through this phase in our lives sometime or another. With that, that's my little piece. I'll turn it back over to Chat. Thank you, Chat.
Thank you so much, Paul. Very short but yet very interesting yung topic ni Paul of dividing or telling us the book into three parts about the book. That on the first part, more of the self-pity. And then after that, sabi ni Paul, there is forgiving or forgiving yourself. Very nice, no? And then the lastly is the acceptance. Forgiving others. We have to forgive others. We have to move on, move forward. Let us forgive and move forward. Keep on dreaming. So thank you so much, Paul, for that wonderful background on or preview about the book. So that is just only the first part. Sabi nga ni Paul kanina, yung second part will Robinson will be telling us more about the second part of the book, The Journey of